Hi there. Well, what's going to happen in martial arts and the self-defense world in 2018? None of us really know, but here's some of my predictions and where I see things going. First of all, we'll start with combat sports. I can see that that's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, especially something like boxing, which has had a real resurgence in 2017 and many big fights to come in 2018, which is great news for boxing fans. When it comes to things like MMA, UFC, all that kind of stuff, I can see that doing a steady growth. A lot of the supposed stars are no longer about anymore, or looking like they're not going to be about. So they've got to create some new ones, and I'm sure that will happen sometime through the year, or maybe even late in the year, and maybe not even till next year. On the plus side for traditional martial arts, according to all my friends in the industry, that's continuing to grow nice and steadily, which is great news, because combat sports is fine, MMA, UFC is fine, but most of us come from a traditional background, and we wouldn't like to see that getting lost in all of this, what's the word, in all of this sort of furore for MMA stuff. Now we'll continue to see things like the MMA world taking more and more stuff from the traditional martial arts. And also, of course, the opposite is true. A lot of the traditional arts will be taking stuff from MMA. Once they see things working in a little bit different way or a little bit better way, then hopefully they'll bring that across. Now that's not true for everyone, but that's just some general ideas. But more importantly, what are we doing for 2018? Well, as you may know, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you now. My goal within martial arts has always been to improve in every area possible and to find more efficient ways of doing everything, whether that be in my own training or in coaching, teaching, instructing, to make sure that the people I'm working with get the best possible information at the right time for them in a way that helps them to grow, helps them to improve in the fastest possible way. Now, how do we do that? Well, it's all about understanding where you are now. And this is a big problem for many people, not just in martial arts, but in all walks of life, is understanding where you are now. Many of us know where we want to be, or we can imagine where we want to be. But oftentimes it's very difficult to understand what level you're currently at. Depending on where you are, if you're doing a game like golf or something like that, you have a handicap, so you can compare yourself to other people throughout the world. It's a standard system. With martial arts, we have belts, so we can compare ourselves within our own club, group, organization, and occasionally worldwide. So it's very difficult for people from organization A to know where they are in relation to organization B. I'm not talking about in terms of a combat sport where you can just have a fight and find out who's best. I'm talking about your knowledge, ability, understanding, all of those other attributes. So what we've found is that one of our failings, if you like, over the years was that we were able to let people know exactly where they stand once they got up to a high level. But on the way to that high level, we were, to be honest, a little bit wishy-washy in terms of where you are. We could advise you what to do next, we can teach you, train you, and make you much better very quickly indeed. All of that is still true. However, what was missing was letting people know where they stand. Where are they at the moment? And therefore, how much further do you need to go? So we deliberated long and hard about this, and that's why just before Christmas, we introduced the new black belt program. And obviously with the belts and the grades, people are now much more able to know where they are now. And once you know where you are now, it's much easier to plan for where you want to be tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. Now, I'm sure if you're anything like me, once you start in martial arts, you have a goal for black belt. And the same should be true within our pressure point fighting system, hence the black belt course. We believe that everybody should be on that course, because once you're on that course, once you start training and learning and adding this information to what you know, or indeed just using it as a standalone system, you're going to find that you have a defined path, an exact route to where you need to be, an exact route to where you want to be, so that you know without any doubt where your skill levels are at the moment and how much more we can improve them. Of course, black belt is not the end. There's still much more after black belt. So that's some of the things that we've got going on for 2018. It's a very, very important step in your development that you can understand exactly where you are and where you're going. And that's very, very difficult to get right, and I'm pretty confident that we have absolutely nailed it. We've cracked it, because we want the very best for you at all times. Like I've always said, you should want to be the best that you can possibly be. I certainly want you to be the best that you can possibly be, and that's why this course is ready and waiting for you. Now, some other things. Okay, over the last few months, I've had tons and tons of emails and requests for different training tips, ideas and things like that. Not necessarily on video, just so I can give you some tips right here, right now. Because some of the problems people have in their own training is that some people have given up on their club. They just want this for themselves, or they just train on their own now, or maybe with a small group. That's fine. That's the sort of thing I've done many, many times. So some of the questions are, how do you train pressure points and things like that when you're on your own? How do you train your normal martial arts when you're on your own? Okay, I'm going to give some training ideas that I use and that very good friends and colleagues of mine throughout the martial arts use when they're doing solo training. What I like to do is use a heavy bag. Now, when you're using the heavy bag, most people are just hum, 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 hitting away, and they use it as a workout. That's fine if you just want a workout, no problem. But if you're looking to improve, you should be doing many other things. One, if you can, video what you're doing, because you're going to become your own instructor. You're going to critique yourself. So you can video yourself applying whatever technique it is you want to do. Let's just say it's a 1-2, jab cross. So you need to be, first of all, video it so you can see exactly what you're doing. You've also got to be clear in your mind what you're trying to achieve with that 1-2. It's not just a 1-2 hitting the bag. Anybody can walk up to a bag and do a 1-2. It's about getting all aspects of that as good as possible. Are you defending yourself still after the 2? Are you moving in and out? Is the bag stationary or is the bag swinging? Are you moving towards the bag? Are you moving away from the bag? Video all those sorts of scenarios. Not just a stationary bag, you walk up 1-2, video it, that looked good, well, I'm doing great. You should be doing it with the bag moving around. You're moving in, moving out, moving off to the side. Working your way in to the technique, working your way out of the technique. All of those things you should be videoing and critiquing for yourself. On top of that, you need to be looking for accuracy whilst you're doing it. Again, you could be doing all of that right and just hitting a 1-2 on the bag with no regard for accuracy, time and speed, power whatsoever. But your movement looks great. So, little things. If the bag's got some writing on it, try to hit one of the letters on the bag. If the letters are fairly big, hit a part of the letter. Practice it, train it. Train for accuracy in everything that you do. And when the bag's swinging around, not just swinging one way, but get it swinging about all over the place. Still got to hit that part of that letter on the bag. That way you're training accuracy at the same time. So do that with every technique, whether it's a 1-2, hooks, uppercuts, knees, kicks, elbows, headbutts, whatever it may be. You should be looking towards training it under all those scenarios and accuracy. And that's something I do almost every training session. Okay, if you've got a training partner, you've got one back, you can still do bag work at the same time. For example, if the bag's swinging, well, this way, okay? If the bag's swinging front to back, you can be at opposite ends of the bag. As the bag's swinging this way, you follow it, do a jab cross at the apex of the swing. As it's swinging back this way, you're moving away from it. As you're moving away from the bag, your training partner is moving towards the bag, does his 1-2 at the apex. As the bag swings back, he's moving away from it, you're moving towards it. Do your 1-2 and keep it going like that. Just a tiny little drill, which two people can be training at once and training movement. So that could be just a jab cross, hook, 2 or 3, 4, 5 straight punches all at the apex. It gets harder and harder the more punches you do at the apex. Remember, you've got to follow the bag in and out, no moving off to the side. That's a different drill. There's hundreds and hundreds of drills that you can use and that we use on a heavy bag for different aspects of your training. If you're doing close-in work, treat the bag like it's a body. Grab it, maul it, push it around, spin it around, move off at angles. Keep the weight of the bag on your head, on your shoulders, so you're used to having something there. Grab it, pull it, twist it, maul it. There's a heck of a lot of stuff you can do just in solo training. When it comes to training with partners and things like that, one of the biggest things that we get asked about, told about, is, do you train full speed and power with pressure points? No, let me explain this for you. You all know, or should know, that a big right hand in the face or a roundhouse kick to the jaw, for example, you all know they pretty much work. So do you train those and smack each other in the face as hard as you can with a punch? And do you kick each other in the head as hard as you possibly can in training? Answer, no, because it's ridiculous. You might be able to do it once, but you won't be able to do it again, and you soon run out of training partners. So it is with everything, right? If you know that a punch to the jaw really hurts, there's no point in punching your training partner really hard, as hard as you possibly can when you're training and helping each other. You can go harder in sparring, you can go harder in an open spar and things like that, but if you're training bare knuckle and you're trying to work situations where you can get to land that right hand, you're not going to punch your training partner in the face as hard as you can. You're going to pull it, or you're not going to throw it at all. You're going to get to a position where you could have thrown it. So with our partner training, when it comes to pressure points, a lot of the work is to get there. The technique part, the actual landing of the technique part, whether it be a strike, joint lock, whatever it may be, is going to be applied first. So you've got to learn how to apply it so that you don't snap things, you don't break things, you don't damage your training partner. We always say treat your training partner how you want to be treated. So you don't punch them in the face as hard as you can for no reason, and you don't rip their arm off because it's their go next. Okay, so all of those sort of things you have to be very, very aware of and very cautious in your training, which doesn't mean you train soft and light and all airy-fairy. You still have to train properly, but you have to train smart. Here's some more little training tips. Now, the best way to learn pressure points, here we go. Obviously, the online courses are the best way. The very best way is direct with me, but after that, the online courses. Let's assume that you're on a course, or maybe not, and you want to learn how to utilize pressure points and get them working within your own system. Okay, now, it's all about technique. Now, you should always be striving to make your technique as good as it can possibly be. You should be looking for perfection. It may never ever be achieved, but that's what we should be looking for. If you're only looking for or prepared to accept second-rate technique, then you'll only ever be second-rate or third-rate or fourth-rate. You should always be looking to make your technique the best it could possibly be. To give you an example, if I'm just working the bag, and let's say I'm just working on a couple of punches, I want to make sure that I'm trying to improve in all areas of that, in every session. Every session. I want to be able to punch faster, with more power, with better timing, distance, defensive capability, from different ranges. So for example, if you've got a knockout punch at a certain range, why not get that knockout punch working at closer ranges, more distant ranges? If you're fast on your feet, why not be fast with your body, fast with your hands, and vice versa? You should always be looking to improve in all areas at all times. So with that bit in mind, the way we teach pressure points, the best way for you to learn is to get your technique good first. If you've got a crappy technique, if you've got the worst right hand, you've got the worst right cross in the world, if you can punch with no power, it's slow, it's useless, then knowing where to hit ain't going to be that much of a help for you, unless you get lucky. Now, we don't want luck. We want something that's pretty sure. We want to get as close to 100% sure as we possibly can. Again, knowing that you can never ever be there. But we always strive for it. So the first thing that we need to do is get the technique right. If your technique is right, then you've massively increased your chances of getting the points to work for you and the point being there for you. Once you've got that bit right, the points will present themselves. Once then you've got that bit, you can slowly, gently, with your training partner, work out the best way to use these points. So if we took a simple stomach 5 as an example, you would test it with a few little taps. You'd see which angle and direction works best for you, even though we've told you what works best. Once you understand the angle and direction you need to make that point work best for you, then you've got to transfer that information back to your technique and find out if your technique is getting you into the right place. So for example, if you're looking at stomach 5 here and you're finding that your technique, for whatever reason, is landing you so that you can hit this area easier or up here easier, then you look up the points in that area. Don't find yourself, to make an extreme example, don't start training for a point on the head and doing techniques that take you to the body, and then turn around and say, I can't get to that point on the head with this technique, therefore the point on the head is of no use. So you understand hopefully what I mean by that. You've got to understand what you're trying to achieve. So if you're practicing points that are on and around the jaw, neck area, your techniques that you're doing should be automatically taking you towards those areas. And at that point, you fine tune to the points. So you may well do your entry real hard, real fast, but the actual, in training, the actual strike, you might pull it or just rest on or give it a little tap. That will be up to you in training and up to you and your training partner. But the key is to get your technique right first. And going back to courses, we help you with that, of course, as well. Because you've got to understand how and why a technique works so that you can improve it and build upon it. And then take those same principles and apply it to every other technique. Now, technique to me is paramount. Assuming everything else is equal, size, strength, determination to win, violence, venom, ferocity, etc., etc. Assuming all other things are equal, technique really matters. Really matters. Now, how do you know when it's a good technique, bad technique, whatever? Well, sometimes that can be difficult, but I have a very simple rule for it. If somebody is bigger than me, stronger than me, fitter, conditioned, blah, 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 all more than me, and I can punch harder than them, I've got a better technique. If the person, take another example, if the person is smaller than me, lighter than me, blah, 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 all of that, and they can hit harder than me, they've got a better technique. So you've got to look at it with some kind of perspective. Okay, where are you at the minute? Who's doing better than you? Now, if you've got some great big, enormous, strong guy who just goes woof and hits that hard that it's just ridiculous, that may not be technique. That may be they're just so big, so strong that they hit hard anyway. What you're looking for is that person who is smaller, lighter, weaker, blah, blah, blah than you and can punch harder. Therefore, their technique must be better. So you can watch their technique and learn from it. That's a very simple general rule that I use. You grapplers, you can do the same. Jiu-jitsu and all that sort of stuff, it's supposed to be that the small guy can defeat the larger opponent. And some can argue, well, if that's true, why do you have weight classes? I'll come on to that. But if you're doing your groundwork, your grappling, jiu-jitsu, whatever, and the other guy is much bigger and much stronger than you, and he just bullies you into submission, so to speak, that doesn't mean necessarily that he's a better grappler than you, he's got better technique than you. It just means that he's so much stronger, blah, 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 he can overcome your technique. But if you're the bigger, stronger guy, and you've got a little itty-bitty guy tapping you out every few seconds, then it's pretty sure he's got a much better technique than you. Therefore, that's the kind of technique you've got to be looking at. So this is an ongoing process. So you'll get to a point, hopefully, that the smaller guy who used to tap you out every few seconds is now tapping you out every 30 seconds. Now maybe once a minute. Now maybe once every 2 minutes. Now all of a sudden it's a bit of a stalemate. Now all of a sudden you can get there. So you're improving. So you've got to look for the next person that can tap you out every couple of seconds, or is that much better at striking, etc., etc., etc. Now there comes a point, of course, where you might meet somebody who's just so much better than you, but their technique is not that good. So you've got to be careful as to where you're going with it and what you're doing with it. I use that fairly general, simple rule. If they're much smaller, lighter, weaker than me, and they can beat me at it, then it's got to be technique. If they can punch harder than me and they're much smaller than me, it's got to be technique. That's the way I've always looked at it, and that's the way I think you should look at it. If somebody has got the technique is as good as yours and they're bigger than you, they should hit harder than you. That simple. If the techniques are both the same, they will hit harder than you. That's why there's weight classes in striking and why there's weight classes in grappling. Because if the technique is just as good, but they're bigger and stronger and heavier, they're going to out-bully you. Okay? Their technique goes on in a bigger, stronger way. That simple. Hence the need for weight classes. So that's one of the biggest tips I can give you for how to train pressure points. Is get your technique right. Learn how and why a technique should be applied, when it should be applied, how to make it better. And at that point, then you know that the point is there for you. So you can train these points, give them little taps, give them digs, prods, give them a wallop, all that sort of stuff. Take it to whatever stage you and your training partners are comfortable with. And then train the entry for that to get there so that you can land the technique. Now what you can do, we do a lot, is we'll do it in, there's all these terms like live training and all that sort of stuff that goes on, so sparring, right? So you can put some gloves on so you can actually give these places a bit more of a wallop. You won't get the same effect because you've got this huge surface area of a glove and you're not trying to kill each other, but it gets you used to doing your technique in motion against a resisting opponent, and you're trying to land in the area that you're after. Yeah, like anything, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. Nothing's 100%. But you're going to be striving to get to 100%, knowing that you'll never get there. But that's what you should be doing. So your training will go in stages from just learning, finding out where these places are, giving them little taps and digs and things like that, feeling the reactions for yourself, noting the reactions on your training partners, then getting your technique right, adding it to the technique, get into the place where you could do it, give it a little tap, see what happens. Next time get in, give it a little bit more, see what happens. Use some safety protocols that we mentioned. And eventually you'll take it to your live sparring, live training, so you can know that you can get there. And you may not be smashing crap out of your training partner, in fact I hope you're not, but once you're confident in getting there and knowing that the point's there, you know how to hit it, best way to do it, everything will open up for you. That is the key to doing it properly, the absolute key. Now, of course, when it comes to training tips and things like that and methodologies, you could go on all day. Right? I'm just going to say it one more time. All the training tips that you need, all the ideas that you need are contained within our courses. So I urge you, just take a look at the courses, have a good look through, get enrolled, and you can take your training way, way up there very, very quickly indeed. Anyway, thanks for your time. I know this has been one of those horrendously long videos, and if you've made it this far, well done. Thanks again, and look forward to working with you very, very soon.